Okay, at 6:30, we'll start off and doing roll call. Councilperson Holthouse. Here. Councilperson Bendel. Here. Councilperson Basket.
Here.
Councilperson Light.
Here.
Stand City Clerk.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. Been moved and second to approve the consent agenda. We'll vote. Councilperson Light.
Yes.
Councilperson Basket.
Yes.
Councilperson Holthouse.
Yes.
Councilperson Bendel.
Yes.
Let's see, new business. We have budget transfer memo number 2, consideration resolution 2025-86 to approve the 2025 budget transfers number 2.
Okay, so these are the transfers. Did I only send that to you guys, or is it printed also?
See it printed.
So is it the one just with the library on it now? Does somebody have it over there?
Two, it's general council, library, skid loader, purchase, equipment.
Okay, so I corrected that. I must have forgot to send that to you guys, so I can actually go print it, but it's the same, but Jeff made a good point. He sent me a message because on the resolution for 2025-86, I had the library on there, which we had spoke about doing the library transfer this fiscal year. And then I had transfers on there for the skid loader, but the bid actually does not come in until tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So I'm actually going to put those on a separate transfer. So for this one, that's it, right? Just the library and then the rep transfers on there for the skid loader. So I amended that so that the 2025-86 is just for the FY25 transfer for the library. And we'll do the other one on after we have a discussion about how the bid comes in and what that looks like.
So there's an updated memo.
Yeah, do you get, well, so the memo, I just took that off. Do you guys want me to go print that?
Well, consider budget transfers memo number 2, resolution 2025-86. So where's the resolution? You have that? Is that?
Yeah, no, that's the one that, let me just print out.
Oh, I see them. It's in the,
Yeah, it's in the
packet.
It's got the library, the sewer, yeah. General funds, so it's the same one you're
In the
looking at.
email.
It's in the packet.
It's an email.
Email.
It's an attachment in the.
I
So
found that.
that's, I didn't see that at first one.
Transfer number 2, right?
But she's saying that it's corrected now? Like what's?
Yeah.
Well, the memo is updated, but the resolution is the same, because the resolution, well, no, I'm wrong on that, because it did have the route transfers on that, so we need to see that, I need to see that new resolution, make sure we're got the right one.
Okay, my apologies. Okay, so this one is the memo, the new memo with the new resolution. And then I went ahead and had this one with it, and this one is the next resolution, which was the closing of those accounts based on the transfers.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I'm basically, taking everything with the skid loader, we're gonna wait until the bids come in, see how that goes, and then we'll do a future amendment or transfers for that if needed.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2025-86.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second to approve resolution 2025-86. We'll vote. Councilperson Bendel,
Yes.
Councilperson Light,
Yes.
Councilperson Vasky,
Yes.
and Councilperson Holhouse. Yes.
Okay, and then I did, go ahead.
Item B, consider resolution 2025-85 to close the following First Federal Credit Union bank accounts.
Okay, so this will obviously close once we do the transfer for the library into the library fund. That will close our library checking account at First Federal. With each of those checking accounts, there's automatically a savings account that is open with those that you have to have like a $5 in. Those will also close. The previous one above is the Parks and Rec. We had already done this transfer for $52,841 when we did the purchase of the playground equipment. That account remains with $6.59 in it. I recommend that we close that account, which then would also just carry the $6.59 into the general fund. But that also carries with it the $5 savings account. Then the next one, we're gonna go ahead and transfer the equipment, which is the $7,487. We can transfer that and, that would be for equipment that was sold a couple of years ago. And that could go toward the skid loader if a purchase is decided. Again, this one also carries a 01 savings account that has the necessary $5. It's not really worth the expense of going through and reconciling the parks account, obviously, with $6.59 in there. It doesn't even create interest anymore. So I wanted to go ahead and create a resolution for those transactions. To execute that, typically Melissa and I have to both sign off at the bank for that. And I can send that to you guys once we do that.
Correct. I'll make a motion to approve 2025-85.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and second to approve resolution 2025-85. We'll vote. Councilperson Vasky,
Yes.
Councilperson Holhouse. Yes. Councilperson, I don't remember who made the motion, but I'll go. Councilperson Bendel
Yes.
and Councilperson Light.
Yes.
Okay, now we'll go into a budget work session.
Okay, I believe in your budget binder, you should have a memo that came behind the budget in a brief. You have a memo that came from the Lions Club requesting a donation for our Urbana Day celebration. And Gwen is here tonight, so I would recommend if we can move to that item first. That way if she would like to stay or go, she's welcome. Gwen, is there anything you'd like to share that you haven't already probably shared in your memo?
So this will be our third year that the Lions are running big days. The first year we called it Strawberry Rhubarb Days, and then we decided that June was a pretty busy month and we needed to move it, so Strawberry Rhubarb didn't really work in August. So we did an online contest and the winner was Urbana Days. The problem we had with the first weekend in August was that it's a dead week at school and none of the school groups could help us. So we've moved it to the last weekend in July so that hopefully like the basketball team or somebody can help us set up and tear down. Somebody a little younger than most of us. But we are asking for the city's support once again. I think the past 2 years you've contributed $6,000 and we've used that to help pay for the fireworks and the bounce houses and
Porta
porta potties and
And all of that did flow through City Hall. They were able to keep all receipts. Brought us, like, if you guys needed, down payments or something ahead of time. And we just paid those bills that were presented up to the 6,000 for the donation, so that it all went to the city.
And we're looking to add a band on Friday night this year. So we have a band on Saturday, and we're looking to also do a band on Friday night, so it'll be 2 nights of live music. Having food trucks come back.
Is there anything else that you guys need from Gwen as we have these discussions?
I don't have anything else that I'm interested in knowing.
So we were trying to figure out, we haven't decided who we want to ask to be grand marshal this year. We were trying to figure out, does anybody know who is the oldest person living in Urbana?
I am not going to answer that, because I do not want to insult anyone. I don't know, Gary.
I'm thinking it's probably gonna be somebody like Vi Narveson or Ernie Yarborough, someone that lives in a town.
Roseberry?
Oh, Madonna Roseberry, I think she would have them, she's probably older than them too. I know she's older than Ernie, or, yeah, Ernie Yarborough. Yeah,
I'm not sure about that.
I think, because it seems like she's 90.
I believe she is, but yeah, 'cause I think she's about the same age as Jeanette Williams, maybe?
Could be.
So I think how this will work, we're gonna go through several line items tonight during the budget session. I think last year, I just let you know, I think I sent you an email to let you know, or is that kind of what you guys were thinking, the same thing that we did last year, so, okay. Did anybody have anything else? So you can stick around, Gwen, or you
Yeah,
can?
she's around for a while.
Okay. All right, so, I'm just gonna go through behind your agenda, hopefully, I'm not sure if we all got put into the same, binder location, but I hope so. I did print off the cash report just in case we have to come to that later. I wanted, before we get into budget memo number 3, I wanted to go to the, budget in a brief and just share some of the items that are in here. So tonight, we will use the memo number 3 to just continue to go through some line items. And then behind your budget in a brief tab, we had a discussion regarding wages, and we had discussed that the public works employees are in the union and negotiated, so their salaries for FY26 are already negotiated. And so we need to make a decision about the remaining public employees and an FY26 wage. So I think someone had asked if I could break down and share the spreadsheet. So I included the spreadsheet behind, I believe I put it right behind the wage reopener. And it's folded in here, it's an 11 by, is that 11 by 17 or something like that? So basically what that will show is employee calculations. And then, after we decide on that, I also then included in here the wage and benefits resolution. So I went ahead and added that so that we can review the salaries then after this. We had talked about making sure that the wage and wage and benefit resolution were done sooner this year. So I'm hoping after we get into making decisions, then I'll be able to update the wage and benefit resolution for the non-bargaining employees. So we will likely also want to then revisit Exhibit B. So I wanted to put this in your binder, so when you take it with you, there are things in here that we are hopefully going to be eliminating most of Exhibit B, because that will go into the employee handbook that hopefully will be done here before July 1. Isn't that kind of what we were thinking, Amanda and Jeff? We were thinking, I think, to have that done by July 1, because most of that then takes away this Exhibit B. I think that includes most everything for tonight. Did you guys have questions before we get into, I know we haven't had a ton of time to review the new pages.
Well, I mean, I went through we're just gonna talk budget. I went through the revenues and expenses. I haven't obviously had a chance to cross-reference with the new pages yet,
Okay,
but I went through it line by line, and I have just some general questions.
perfect.
Trying to understand a few things. So, I mean, if we want to start there, if anybody else has anything they want to
Where
go.
you at on there?
Behind the expenses tab, I think.
Yeah,
Is that where you
sorry.
were, behind the expenses tab?
I mean, ultimately, my opinion is that I really feel like we need to understand what our general fund projected revenue is, so that we can see how this is going to fit, so to speak, because, you know, if the revenues are 50 grand less than what we budgeted, then it changes everything, because we're gonna have to get creative or make some tough decisions. So to me, it's really hard to have a budget meeting without knowing what your target is. Because I really feel like we need to find a way to save some money. So that's all I was trying to do, is go through I went through the revenues and expenses and try to figure out what we're spending money on. Are we budgeting money that's not getting spent year over year? Can we bring back? So if we want to, I can kind of go through some of the things that stood out to me. There may be more, but that's where
I would think that's a good idea, and I would agree. I think that's where I'm stuck right now too, is like, yeah, I mean, it sounds good, but I don't know where this is going to put our tax levy rate, and that to me is where I would be focused to Jeff's point, like what are we getting? Where do we need to find some savings? What are we budgeting for that we're not using? Where can we trim? Are we missing something that we should have budgeted for?
So, I mean, I'm happy to start with what I circled, if nobody has any concerns with that. So we'll just get started. I mean, I don't have a lot. I mean, maybe 10 things. So the miscontact contract police, I see that number went up a couple grand, about $2,400 based on the original. What is that showing us? Is that the contract for dispatch fees and the miscellaneous patrolling hours, or is that, what are we saying here with that 24,000?
That is just,
That's
so.
the contract that we have current with them. For
Yes,
their
so
coverage.
that is current. So that would be for the increased coverage. And previously, when you have an active police department, you have to pay not only Benton County for their contract for the hours they pick up, but then you also have to pay dispatch fees. So with this fiscal year 25, since we have not had active police department, we haven't paid dispatch fees, but we did increase our hours within the contract. So that's the estimated, for FY 25 with current contract hours with Benton County right now. And that does not include dispatch fees, it's just the increased contract hours, which are at
It's either 12 or,
I was gonna say, is it 12 or 18?
it's either 12 or 15.
15,
Okay,
okay.
that makes sense. So if for some reason, we don't need that kind of coverage from them, that would be used to cover let's say we didn't have them contracted.
Right, then that would go toward like the dispatch fees or, but right before you leave this page though, if you go right above that with expense item 6411, I'm decreasing that to 15,000. Because that will change, I believe, over the next couple months, and it will not need to be
Okay.
that amount.
I had that in circle, but I thought we
Okay.
could do that.
Wasn't there one more fee that we got charged from the sheriff's office besides dispatch?
Yeah, so I wrote those down too. We would get charged, if you have active police, you get charged the Benton County contract, then you get charged additional for dispatch fees, then you get charged additional for all the legal fees that will go through, because Benton County does not cover the legal fees if you have an active police department, that is, an expense to the city. So I have those three written down. Was there something else that I
I
missed?
think I thought there was 3 there.
Yeah.
Do we remember what the dispatch fee was? Is that?
10 or 12.
Oh,
It was
okay.
like 14, I thought.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
14,000.
Okay.
I'll check that out. I'll check that out.
Yeah,
For dispatch.
Yeah, that was quite a bit.
I remember it being pricey, and I remember always asking like, well, how do we know that? Maybe that was the contract, I always get the two mixed up, the contract hours, and how do we know they're actually in control, it's less contract hours, but.
So we also have to pay another fee too for on the communications, was it the computer system?
Oh, right. I was having that conversation too. If you go up to 6373.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe Amanda that had previously sent an email, so I have that one circled to talk about tonight as well. So that right now, as you can see, expended this year is almost $2,600. So that communications is covering the US Cellular bill for PD, and it's also covering USA Communications. So whether we have an active department or not, we currently are paying the PD cell phone, but then we also pay for 3 vehicles to have wireless equipment in those vehicles each month. And so even though we haven't had the active department, those are still monthly expenses. So
Can that really not be shut off if it's not in use?
It-
And
it-
should
So,
be started back up?
it can, but
Reactive fees too.
Oh, okay. He said there'd be reactivation.
right, sure. Right, so if you think about a cell phone, it's like mobile services, so there would be that. We haven't really had direction yet as to coming back and those types of things, so it's not something that I have taken on to deactivate by any means, so. But just wanted to show you, like, that's about probably what we spend with 3 vehicles, with the cell phone and the wireless equipment. And then in addition to that, the landlines and the internet as well to this building, but also,
And then you're paying insurance on 3 vehicles.
correct. Correct, which that would be in, as part of the expense line 6408. Which would be like partial building, partial 3 vehicles,
Yeah,
items
full
within the
coverage.
building, right? Property,
The other one that I had circled in police was the computers, and we put 5,000 in, and I don't know, there was 10,000 budgeted last year, I don't know if there was some planned purchase there, but I hate to just throw 5,000 in there for the sake of throwing 5,000 in there if we're not gonna spend any money on computers, do they need?
Right, so yes, you are correct. So initially in this current budget, part of the request for police was that they wanted to redo computers over in,
The office.
yes, the office. So I can't even remember right now. I think there's at least 2 over there plus towers,
There's at
plus.
least 2, there may be 3.
And this was close to a quote that we had received because the police department was actually doing business with another technology company that was not the same one that the city was using. And so that at the time was about what was quoted last budget season for that, but as you can tell, that's not happened. The only other expense in here, which I put in 5,000 in there because there is a software fee that goes with the system for the police department. And then the other piece of that is we do split the software for our G Cloud, which is the accounting software that we use for the city. So
Thanks, Wayne.
thank you, Gwen. We split that software evenly between PD, streets, water, sewer, city hall. So I don't believe that it would be the 5,000, but again, I didn't know that, are we going to, if we move forward with an upgrade over there, would it be for all of those computers? Would it be for a few of, like 1 or 2 of those computers? Because they are older. So that's why I was leaving some cushion in there.
That's fine, I wasn't sure. If we were, where the hell is that? That makes sense.
So that included new computers and software.
Yeah, so they currently have a software license that they pay for. Then it's partial for the software that's shared with all departments throughout the city for our city software. And then I left a little bit in there too, because computers, are not cheap. So like, even if we just replace one computer, tower, printer over there, it would be a couple thousand, I would assume.
Yeah, I think there may be a computer at each desk over there.
That's what I was thinking. I took pictures of it last,
Of course, then you have, each car has a computer in it, has
Right.
a laptop in it.
Yeah, so that computer system here does not include the vehicles,
no,
does not include the vehicle computers.
that doesn't include like an upgrade to the car computers.
Okay, the other, I guess on these, moving forward, so the health insurance streets was at 0, it's been zeroed out, and now it's got 9,900 in it, I wasn't sure what that meant.
Yes, so when I started looking at health insurance previously, the recommended procedure for that is the same percentage that you pay a person's salary out of a budget, then you should probably also take that same percentage and pay their health insurance benefits out of that. And I noticed that we pay out of streets, but we were not paying the health insurance out of that account. So I kind of want, like for the spreadsheet, because when we roll over to the new system, I want everything in my spreadsheet that says if we pay 15% of Alan's salary out of parks, then 15% of his health or benefits should also then come out of parks. And this one was not actually set up that way. So that's why I have that included in there right now.
So where was the, I wasn't getting funded then prior. Was it,
Yeah, where was that from?
where was that percentage coming from? Maybe that's a different, deeper question. That explains,
It's probably on my second tab, but,
so somewhere else it's reduced, is what you're telling me? Somewhere else the
yes,
health
that's what
insurance number is.
I would like to say, yes. Yes, so like 15% of his salary for streets, and then 15% of streets for Luke. So then 15% of their combined healthcare then is to that line item. So that is my second spreadsheet, and of course, that would be the health benefits FICA, and I want to put up the wages, so. I forget. Which one was that? That was health, streets, and general budget, right?
Health insurance, streets.
But out of
In-
streets general,
Yeah.
the zero,
What do you have listed there?
which one is that? Oh, it's, 001, 2, 6150. Okay, I'm gonna double check that, and then I'll be able to tell you guys where to. The other thing that, that was partially in here previously, since you are asking with the health insurance, so previously, Melissa and I do not take health insurance benefits. However, I do believe that that needs to still be items that are budgeted for, because at any moment, if there is a life change or event, that would qualify for them to change, for Melissa or I to change, we should have that budgeted. Even if we don't use it, it should probably still be budgeted. Unless you guys think.
Is there an enrollment period? Usually there's an enrollment period.
There is, but
There's still
there is
life
life-changing,
Oh,
Life-changing event,
yeah.
maybe.
that's right. I
Marriage.
missed that part.
Yeah.
Or like in the event that someone leaves, that person that comes to replace, like elect,
Right,
take the benefits. So we would offer, you know,
a full-time position.
out of cycle for budget, we would still want to
Sure,
budget it.
sure. Okay, let me keep moving.
And very soon, I should have a really good idea of your revenue part of this too. But right now, we have an amendment open in our budget, which that budget amendment will happen on February 12th. So all the numbers that I'm currently putting into the Department of Management website kind of sits there because we have an open amendment in our current budget. So once that amendment is done, then it like updates, so it'll roll numbers for FY '26. So hopefully we should have a really good idea here very soon of estimated revenues, our property tax levy.
Great. So moving on the, so the street maintenance capital contract, it says 45,000. My question was, I assume this is our seal coat contract, right?
Yes. Are you
So-
doing 00121064117?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
that would
is
be
that-
Simcoe.
We're using lost for that, or is that a transfer in then on the loss side.
Yeah, but we will show it as an expense, so yes, so
Of
it'll
course,
go.
I was just
trans-
trying, I didn't see it
Yep.
on the revenue side.
Yes,
That's what I
and
was-
actually, Jeff, that's why you didn't see it, is because I just went through and did all of those, so it would be in the updated one, so you are correct.
Perfect.
So that's the expense, and then you'll see a transfer in general fund for the 45, and a transfer out of loss for the 45. So
Yep.
you are correct, that's why you didn't see that.
Good. So I noticed this contract streets had 7,500. That's not a lot of expense out of there. I didn't know if there was something planned there. And then, street maintenance supplies, that's been not a lot of money coming out of that, but we've got quite a bit budgeted. So in my head, I'm like, two funds that combined expenses in the last 2 years is less than half of what we budgeted, so
Mhm.
just, because.
So I definitely think,
You're talking about 649.
I'm talking 6499
Yeah.
and 6507, those two
Right.
numbers. Yeah, almost 15,000 budgeted, but.
Yeah.
And so far, we've only spent
17.
about 700 bucks.
Mhm.
We're almost, we're over halfway through the year, so.
Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and highlight both of those.
I mean, I know, it just feels like it's, maybe there's opportunities where we could trim something out of it if there's not anything planned, like that contract. I don't know if there's something, if he's got something in mind for a contract, or if that's just like something that we could or could not occur during the year that we have to hire somebody.
29th
Right.
Ave,
It's what?
29th Avenue asphalt.
I was thinking more like, I don't know, just if someone,
Which that could.
Yeah, I do know that
Maybe.
they like to have a little bit of a cushion in there too, just to, especially with like I do think though, the streets, maintenance supply, that is one that I had circled previously too, because we have the maintenance supply and the miscellaneous supplies. So I do definitely think, that's an area that maybe we could trim just a little bit out of, in addition to maybe the miscellaneous contract. I do want to talk to Trent about that, just to see his thoughts on that.
yeah, that's fine.
I mean, just the trends that you see here is definitely not being used.
Yeah, not like it's being budgeted. Let me see, I should know. Yeah, I see where the health insurance was reduced in other areas, so that explains that.
Okay. I did make a change to the parks. I think this wasn't one of Amanda's questions, but I think it crossed between the old expenses and then the new one. So I went ahead and did the 001-430-6727, which is our capital equipment for parks. Initially, I put in there, our capital for parks that we typically budget for, but then I also put in there the 75,000 capital project for pollinator, and then always the possibility of the $21,000 for a private donation with the sport court. I actually pulled both of those out of the operational budget and created capital accounts for those, because as Amanda said, that'll be money in, money out, because it'll be a fully funded pollinator park. So I created a separate capital account for the 75,000 because that'll come through grant. And then I also did a separate capital account for the sport court with private donation. So again, that would be fully funded and come in and come out. So I think it's best that we not have that in the capital operations for parks. So I did take that out. I did also, it's my page 7, but this is another one for community center, just briefly. I tried I did part of Melissa's deputy clerk position out of community center, and I ended up taking that out after having some conversations with some other cities. Because really, the majority of Melissa's contract is utility billing, and same thing with the previous one, that if this much of the duties and wages come out of, so Melissa's would come out of clerk now, and then water sewer, it really then, her expenses are the same. And when we budget then for any of the benefits, so if you see the reduction there, community center, that's kind of the thinking behind that.
The only other thing I had in the expenses, I know we talked on this briefly, but the way that the library office supplies is budgeted, is, I know that in past budgets that they had drafted, they had like very specifically allocated towards circulation and certain things. I just wasn't sure. I know that you haven't had a chance to get a full fiscal year under their belt to see how things will flush out. I was just curious if they had how that was,
Yes.
what that was looking like. I was just curious more.
Yep, so.
It's a big number.
Yep, it is a big number. We actually, so when I met with Alan and Carrie, we are moving, and it says office supplies, we can truly call it, any kind of supplies. We decided with like computers, postage, it's really not necessary for the city library payment. That's only carrying over because it has a history to it, which would have been a payment to Centerpoint. Some of those we took out, so the 24,000, because it's really not the city's discretion, it's the discretion of the library board as to where those additional expenses are going to go. And so that just gives that discretionary back to them. There's no need to have every single one of these.
No.
Small things. Same thing with communications. We had previously had $750 in the communications, and after working with that, I got it down to $2 a month. And that's simply because on our IT, we can go in and create an extension for the library as a part of the city. And that can just flow through that because it's all kind of cloud-based. So we don't have to wire in and pay for all of the expenses for an actual telephone line and all of that. It can just be $2 a month for an extension for the library, so.
Yeah, and that's fine. I really was just, I think it's just more educational for the council to understand that that isn't just some round number they thunk up, and that
Oh, right,
councils down the road are gonna say, well, let's just cut that in half.
Right,
Or you can say,
right.
well, we're spending this much on circulation every year, or this much on programs or computers, and it's, it's adding a lot of value. So if you just see that number sitting there by itself, you're like, oh, well, that's,
Yeah, that's a very good point, very
So
good
I was
point.
just
So,
curious to see how that was out there.
yeah, and if you want me to give you like a report for everything that's gone out through that office supply account so that you can see all of the expenses and the software licenses, things like that. Yeah, so, and then that line I will actually just take that library fund, the checking account, and we're going to just put it into that also. I think I told you guys, yeah, into the office supply, because one of the foundation grant, like the Benton County Foundation grant that wasn't awarded this year, it just gives them more leeway. I know they need more shelving in there and they were able to purchase that. So, yes, I agree that we need to make sure that we continually share with the public, but also the council, the added value that's on that line item. I just thought that for the purpose of the flow through in the office,
Sure.
it's not necessary for us to have all of those line items.
Yeah, we definitely need more definition of what that line is.
So that's a good point.
So that's really all I had on the expenses as far as specific questions. Does anybody have anything else? Right, I got some revenues, we can jump into that quick. I didn't have a ton on the revenue side. One we already answered with respect to that, the rut, or the lost. On, I guess it's 4830, the transfers in general. What is that number showing me? I don't understand that.
Where are you at?
This
Yeah,
would be
which
page
one?
3, I guess. It's 48.
So 001910430.
Yeah,
Okay, so right now, what's currently been expended, are all of those the smaller transfers in that we just did in September, where, we closed the Little League with $7,800. Any of those, accounts that fell within the general fund, and we transferred, let's see, there was the Little League, there was, maintenance, there was like a maintenance building, still had like maybe $7,000 still in it or something. There was a special,
well, that's fine. That number is very
Special need.
specific. So like 96,261, I don't know what, there's something adding that up, and I didn't know how we budgeted that. Is that just a random number? Because it's always hovered around 50, then it jumped to 96 for our current budget, and we expensed 24. I didn't know that 96,261 was being, how that it's originated. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't,
Yeah.
to me, it doesn't tie back to anything else in here. It's just like a number sitting there for that account. Are we expecting some revenue on transfer in general? Because like last year, we transferred in the money to cover and to not raise the levy. Remember, we did a transfer in. I'm assuming that's in here. That's part of that number, right? The 30 grand we.
yeah,
So
so,
You're assuming that that's the current budget, the 96,
I'm saying that
261.
that 96 includes the money we had to transfer in, so we didn't raise the levy.
right, which would have been like some of that's memorial expenses, is that what you're talking about? That we transferred back in? Wasn't it like, there was like 30,000, is that what you're talking about?
I thought we were in the red on the budget, and we were gonna either have to, remember, am I making sense? So
I remember we talked about.
December
raising-
2023, right? Is that what you were talking about?
no, I'm saying last year when we did the budget, we were upside down. We didn't have the revenues to cover what we budgeted, so we transferred, we had a general, this
To
is.
keep the levy the same,
Yes.
we transferred.
Oh, his
So-
doesn't say the same one as the.
Well, I'm looking at the
Okay.
old, so
Sorry, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what you're looking at right now.
so I didn't check the new, so what does it say? Oh, it's.
I think it's 0.
0.
It's
Yeah.
0.
That's why I was.
Yeah, I'm like,
so
oh my
it's
gosh,
zero.
I am not seeing what you're seeing,
Okay,
but
good.
yes.
Got it,
That's
now
my
I
bad.
understand
I
why.
didn't
So your old one, yes, where you have these circle questions, that's where I had not plugged in the
Okay,
new
good.
revenues.
Good.
But
good.
I think we should still look at the revenues together, like what you're suggesting.
Yes, so I'll go to, the other one that I have is rut, and that changed, page 5.
Yeah, so rec is,
See that, so that's why I'm curious. That would stay the same, but if you notice, 2 years ago, we brought in 213, last year 219, but we keep budgeting 200. Is that by design or?
yeah, that's kind of by design a little bit, because it does go, by population, and you get so much per person based on your population. So I don't ever want to put more in than we think we're going to take in, and so Teresa recommended for Lost and Rut, go a little less than what you think than what you maybe have brought in, just so that you don't
What if-
over budget.
What if you did 210? I mean, I know it's not gonna be huge, but we are trending
Mhm.
upward, and that's meeting last year's.
I can do that. So then we probably want to take a look at the lost. Also, which is page 6 at the very bottom, 121,950,4090. Do you see that?
See, that one's
No,
pretty
that one's
consistent.
pretty consistent.
Okay. I don't think I had anything else.
We are, like on page 7, we are seeing an increased revenue now for town center, because obviously we have more valuation out there that's being reported, so we do have an increase there for revenue.
Oh, so maybe you changed it. I better, before I speak, I should go look.
Oh, you'll also see, on the new one, on, I think it's page 14, I forgot, I also created a new capital account for the Big Miller. That we were planning with the capital improvement plan to pay for the Big Miller overlay from RUT, which is approximately $203,000. I created the separate capital account for that as well in the new revenue pages.
I was questioning the water sales number since we raised rates. Should that be higher?
Yes.
And the money that we're collecting on the fee,
The $10 fee.
where's that? Is that in here?
That'll go into water. That'll be
That's the
going
water
directly to
sales?
water, but I don't have that included. I don't have the increase for, FY 26 on there, so you're right.
Can you just go to water service fee?
Well, that's what I was wondering. I don't.
No, it's not, it's going actually, which one did you just say, Josh?
Water service fee's been zero, you didn't put it in that line item.
But we raised water rates too.
Right.
Yeah.
The $10.
No, it's not, it's going into,
To me, water sales is what you collect for
From
the
your patrons,
consumption
yeah.
of water, and the $15 or whatever the $10 fee is should be on.
the service.
I don't know if
fee.
that's. I don't know. I'd like to see the difference in there so you can illustrate what it's generating.
Okay, yeah, then I'm going to have to change the setup for, that would mean changing the setup
What do you mean?
in the system, in the software system. So right now, it's not, it's taking it in as just sales, it's not set up.
Oh.
So we would have to go back in and, set up the water service fee as a separate generating line, because it's not doing that right now.
Does that change anything with our funding? Because, you're supposed to have the certain amount of water revenue. Is that by design? Like, is it supposed to look like revenue? So that, you know what I mean? Like, you have to, what's the percentage?
10%.
Your water operating revenues have to exceed a certain percentage of your expenses to qualify for that loan we're gonna get. Is
But
that
doesn't the fee go into that?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm
calculation?
saying. Is that why you put it there, or it wasn't really decided? One way or the
Is that why I put water service fee there?
Mhm.
No, that's just been there
Oh,
always.
this is what you decided?
Yeah. But, so what I'm saying is if you would like to see the $10 fee generating on a separate line item, it's still going to be part of the total water sales. So like for our debt services, and when Maggie comes in to see, do we have the revenue, can we receipt up in the water account? She'll look at this number, the water sales number, but yeah, I mean, if we need to do that, we need to change, just how the billing is coming in each month.
Well, and you probably want to go back to when we,
Started it, which would have been October's bill, I believe, wasn't it October 1st bill?
Yeah.
That it was,
Mhm. I mean, I guess I don't know that it makes that big of a deal, but.
I think I understand what you're trying to do and I agree, I think it would be good to see, but I'm almost thinking, mean, this, yes, we could have captured it in an automated fashion, where now, is there a way out of the system that we could pull that as a report to say, this is the $10 fee, and this is the, like, to show what the difference is and which one is bringing in which. I think you could capture that if there's some reporting out of the system that you could do.
And I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. If you want to see that moving forward, the water service fee on a separate line item, then I need to kind of think that through, how we change the setup and then go back. I mean, obviously we can recode, so we know exactly, like, it'll just take some adjusting in the system with tech support, but
I mean, I do think to Jeff's point, and it's probably a conversation for a different time, but along the lines of budget, I mean, it would be good to see that what we did on increasing our rates is getting us to where we need to be for that project and that loan.
well, and I do, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I don't think that we have a sewer service fee. We don't right now. I would think it's fine anyway. I want to check what it is. Yeah, so it's 0. So now that we have the $10, maybe I'll actually change the name of this line item so that it actually says water capital fee. Because I believe that's what we call it on the actual bill itself. Yeah, so let me do some looking into that and how we can better track that. I think that would be good.
The only other question I had, it's not even really that relevant, but I was curious, when we say sewer rental, what does that mean?
So funny you should say that. I don't know why they call it sewer rental. I have no idea why all of this is coming into sewer rental, but that's how they are collecting it, and it comes under a line item called sewer rental.
All right.
Is that what you're talking about? The 4510? Yeah, I have no idea. But it bugs me enough that maybe we need to change what it's called, because I was sitting there like, why is this called sewer rental? It doesn't make sense to me.
See, there's one up there that says sewer land rent, which
Well, so that one is actually,
we're collecting some rent on.
yes.
I get that.
What is that person's name?
I know. Second.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so let me capture this line item.
I mean, that's never, what is that, last 2 years ago, I forgot what we did there. That's recent, isn't it? That rental, that with Sackets.
We plowed up like 10 acres behind the sewer plant. And they're planting corn in it. It takes forever.
And actually, at the end of this year, like in the fall, I think it comes due again. So it was only a 3-year contract with him. And so we need to look at that in the fall. I have a note to myself that we need to look at that in the fall.
Got it. That's all I had.
Other questions?
No, I had a lot of the similar ones, Jeff, and the other ones, you answered my question, and I don't have questions on something.
All right, let me go back here. Okay, so the next. Okay, the next item that I wonder if we could go back to would be probably wages, I think. What additional information can I provide to the council?
I think this is where I would like to see where we're kind of starting to shake out, because I think that's the piece I would like to see before committing to wage increase. What growth are we going to have? Where are we sitting at right now, where our tax levy is going to be at? Is that something we can do in a reasonable amount of time? With what we have left for time?
Yeah, so you're just saying you want more with where the levy is currently at?
Yeah, like what, if we put in the 3%, what does that look like with the tax levy? If we put it in, I mean, my opinion would be, let's put it in with the 3, but then to me, that would be something if we need to bring it down, that would be something we would have to look at.
We're talking less than $5,000.
I mean, yes, but
But you also gave the union guys 3% with no questions asked. So what do we do?
I'm just saying that, I mean, if we don't, at this point, I haven't seen any growth data. So how do we justify continually giving 3%?
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a struggle with me with relation to like the union contract and our full-time employees. That the wage increase on the union contract, I wasn't involved in that discussion. I don't know how those negotiations went. So if that's what was brought back, I thought it was relatively fair. Union guys pay their dues, they're part of the union. Our full-time employees, every year it's that question, what should we, how does everything shake out? Ideally, it's performance and merit-based, but a lot of times it isn't. I'm fine with, the 3% in there for the purposes of seeing how this looks. I'm not gonna debate that. But it does every year it comes up. And we're a town of a small community that doesn't have, a lot of growth or a lot of tax base to support. And we're growing our, we've obviously invested in a city administrator. We have a full-time deputy clerk now, and we still have a police department that requires quite a, there's wages to be expended there. So it's not that easy. I know it's easy to say, well, the union got this, so that's what everybody else gets. Which we've kind of fallen into that trap every year because we just do. I've been up here 5 years, it's always the same discussion.
So I do think that, so going into negotiations, I think one of the things to think about, like, I do struggle a little bit with the merit pay because there are certain things within the city that, like, certain areas don't necessarily generate revenue. So, how can I say, like, with merit pay, hey Trent, you had this capital project, unfortunately it costs, the streets department $203,000 this year, so you don't get a raise. Like, it's really hard in the public sector I can understand like the merit pay in a private sector, or when you have, revenue coming in and you have increased revenues on a good year or something, but I feel like when we say, the 3%, we're a very tight-knit group, I feel like, and so I do kind of want to know, like, what does the council feel in terms of what's fair? Because when I come to work every day, I try not to think of my employees as those who are in a union and those who are not, to say whether or not they get a certain pay amount. Do you know what I mean? And so when I say that, yes, so we've negotiated for FY 26 and 27, the 3%, or was it just for 26?
It was 2 years.
Yeah. If we did that for 3%, I don't always believe everything's fair, but at the same time, I I do kind of go back to, you know, if I'm giving 3% to the employees that are union, why wouldn't I want to keep that with all of the employees? Like, I hate to put this barrier between if you're in the union and you're not in the union, and I guess I just can't wrap my head around that. I don't know, and it could be because I've never been in the private sector. Same thing, you know, in public education, I've explained that before. You know, regardless of what was coming in, there's always a negotiated contract, and that contract is always a percentage increase for teachers or however that goes, and it's the same of how it was. So I don't know how to wrap my head around that.
Well, when I worked at a facility in Cedar Rapids, when we negotiated the contract, those people outside of the union, the office people, got the same wage increase as what the union did. And there are some years we didn't get a raise and they didn't get a raise, but that's the way it always was. It's just pretty much straight across the board.
So my experience with merit is that it's performance-based, not revenue generating based. So like, if someone comes to work and is doing a great job and fulfilling all the expectations and going above and beyond, that person should not receive the same increase as someone who's coming to work and barely making it by.
Being a slacker.
So
That to me is merit.
well, and I understand, I think what you mean by merit pay. So what, I guess maybe, is that a tiered system of,
So like.
Like, what does that look
like? Within my company that I work for, they do market adjustments and everyone's at a base. Not everybody gets that every year. It's reviewed every year. There is a range pay, so my job description is between this, a midpoint or a base pay, the midpoint, and the max pay. Once I get to max, I don't get another raise unless they adjust the range.
More of a lump sum.
Right. Then with merit, if funds allow, and I work for a not-for-profit organization, if funds allow, and yes, there was, you know, ability to invest in our employees, then we are eligible for a merit increase. The merit is never, since I've been there, been more than 2.5%. And that's the max. So if you're a role model employee and your evaluation is role model, you're gonna get the 2.5%. But we're all given, here's your budget. I have 35 employees. Between that, I then have a lump sum of increase to be able to give. And then I have to go through based on how I give my evaluations and decide who gets 2.5 is the max and who gets less than a percentage. And
so
once
it's the merit plus the market?
the market is something totally different and not everybody gets that. We don't do that. They look at it every year, but it's every 3 to 4 years, market is applied. And it's not even all positions.
So I can see something like this. I also see that there might be a lot of work that we need to do within our system for this, because I'm not sure that we have any of this.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like this has to be.
You know, like our
how we
job
are. I'm just-
descriptions,
this
I don't
is-
even know
this
that
is
we
an
have that.
example.
Like a base, mid, max.
Oh,
I know.
pay, no, there's nothing like
I mean, we
Yeah,
have
that's
like,
been my struggle since I came on the council, is like, okay, so at what point do we, I mean, we
Does an
just keep
employee,
giving
like,
3%, where do we max out at for what you're doing? I mean, if someone has longevity and tenure here, they could, I mean, at what point are they maxed out in their pay scale for what they're doing? I mean, we do have some tenured people. I think that's something that we really do need to evaluate and look at. And yeah, I mean, there's inflation and things that go up, and yeah, we need to look at that, but right now, we're just, I feel like we generally just take a stab at it. There's no data, it's not a data-driven decision at all. That bugs me.
Well, I did feel like the 3% was a bit data-driven. I did do research with the increase, with the inflation. I did some of that. I did do both percentage versus straight dollar amount and provided that when I provided the negotiation, and how that went. Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm against any type of system like this. I'm just saying that for us to do, we would have a lot of work to do between now and doing a budget if we were gonna try and do this.
Yeah, and I'm not
this year.
suggesting that we do that for fiscal year 26. I'm fine, let's plug in the 3%. But I'm just saying, I think that could be something where I wanna see where we're gonna fall.
Mhm.
Because if we don't have the funds coming in, I mean, we've raised rates on water. I don't wanna continue to raise the levy rate and the water rate and all of this stuff, and we're just spending. I do think that we need to challenge ourselves to also be good stewards of our finances. So that's why I'm asking. I think plug it in. I'm not debating that. I'm just, every year, this conversation comes up, and every year we don't try to do anything differently.
It is a little unfortunate. It comes back to the 3% on, I mean, it's a relatively small amount on the entire budget, which is why, I mean.
Which we're talking about, I think Josh is right. I think we are, for this particular, we're looking at less than
But that's really,
5,000.
that's the other question, is like, all of the expenses that we go through and we talk about and everything, it's like, I've said it in years past, like, how about we, I saw where, I think his name is Marion, they started zero with their budget. They literally say, justify every dollar you need to spend this next year. And we always just start from the previous expense and inch it up, because that's simple and cost of goods go up, right? Well, I mean, it's not cheap to run a city, but at the same time, it's like, we probably could be a little better with how we spend money, or let's just not spend that money, or not budget that money. And if something comes up that's emergent and we don't have the money budgeted, we do an amendment. We have to. Otherwise, we put it off, or if it can be put off. So I really feel like we have to get serious about finding a way to pull the budget back in. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we've increased our expense in salary over the last couple of years, which I think is good, because we're getting some great things out of it. But at the same time, people start to ask a lot of questions, like why are we spending too much money? Or, I mean, nationally, you can just see it. Everyone wants their cost of living to go down. So why would we be any different at the small city level? It's harder because we don't have the tax base, So I mean, really, I agree with Amanda. I think that we could, I really am curious to see what the numbers are gonna look like, and I don't think that not taking 3% to 2% or something, random is going to solve the budget, if there's an overage or whatever. So I don't have any concerns with that. I mean, obviously we'll visit the deputy clerk's position at salary. I want to really look hard at that and see what that's going to be. Because what was Melissa making, like 20 or something, or 19 or something like that. So that range that you put in was that from sentence? Was that range?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so, and not just center point, but yes, so the range that we put in there, that's also a range, the stipulation that I highlighted, that, the $22, it was $22, or excuse me, 21 to 26, depending on qualifications. One of their essential skills is that they do want their deputy clerk to go through the clerk certification within the 3 years here.
Mhm.
And, yeah, I think,
So yeah, I mean, that's a big number. I mean, we went from, well, honestly, we had one person up here for a while. So to go to a full-time and that's salary, that's a significant increase that it does have a bearing on the bottom line. So I'm not saying it's not necessary because wages are not.
well, I think, I don't know, like, what other people make hourly, but, I mean, I don't know. I have a 19-year-old that made $25 an hour doing construction this summer, so I don't know what some, you know, if you have a 2-year degree, possibly even a VA, like, I'm one of those people that I think that, you know, like, if we wanna look at things, the last thing I want to do, and I totally respect the conversation about market adjustment and merit pay and wanting to save dollars. At the same time, I hate to think, I would not want my employees to think that I'm scrutinizing salary and wages of $5,000 in a budget like right now. Because we do have excellent employees, I believe, that are working hard and showing up every day, and so, yeah, that's, I don't know, that's a difficult conversation, I guess.
Should we end with that? Is there anything else we need to talk about? Do you think we'll have that by, when's our next,
February 12th.
we'll plan to talk budget session then, do you think we'll have the?
I'm hoping, yeah. It
Because when do we
won't,
have to have that first certification, is it, you know, we have to have it.
in the timeline.
Yeah.
I believe it's before March.
Oh, March 20th, we mail the truth in taxation statement. Whatever that is.
Yeah, so I would have like total numbers after the night of February 12th, because after the budget amendment is approved and I can go in and approve that budget amendment for this fiscal year, then I believe that will, because it changes all of our dollars here, and then it'll change where we start for FY26 based on that.
But don't you, what I'm saying is the revenue from the general fund levy, do you know that number? Like the projected for the fiscal 26 yet? Maybe a little higher. I mean, there's the number in there, it didn't change, it's the 635.
No,
Property tax
if it
in general.
didn't, if this,
Current and new.
yes, then I probably don't have a new one. Yeah,
That's what
it's still the same one from, yeah.
That's what I want to see, what that looks like.
Yeah, I should definitely have that and be able to probably even email you guys that before the
That'd be-
12th.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
I'll be gone the 12th.
Does anyone else have conflicts with the 12th right now?
Oh,
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm like, otherwise we could be rescheduling. Yeah, so if the three of you have something that comes up for the 12th, will you let me know as soon as you do, because then we would have to reschedule. because Josh won't be here, then we won't have a forum.
Nothing,
Do we need to reschedule? Possibly.
depends on what's on the agenda.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, I think that's it. I have plenty of work to work on between now and then, you guys.
So would the hope be, just looking at the timeline, so we'll have a number after February 12th?
Well, possibly before,
Okay,
and
then we would no later than, during our regular March meeting, have an idea of where we're all comfortable with as of that night, or, like, I'm just trying to figure out, are we gonna have another special budget?
in February, possibly, yes, I would say,
February.
should we look at a date?
I'll be gone the 19th through the 21st. Yeah, 22nd.
Let's see,
So that Wednesday through that Sunday.
19 through the 23rd?
Yeah.
Okay. Tuesday or Wednesday, do either of those dates still work for everybody? Like if we were to tentatively do a February 25th or 26th? Or something different?
Those would work for me. Either.
I'd prefer the 25th, I think.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So let's tentatively do you said 25th?
Yes.
$6:30? I'm assuming it's still
Yep.
working for everyone?
That works for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, and then if for some reason there's a conflict for the 12th, you guys will let me know. All right, I
Yep.
think.
I'll motion to adjourn if nobody else has anything.
Okay.
Been moving second to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Mr. Fernandez.